Welcome into another edition of the Old North State Sports Show, folks. We are here. It is March Madness time. Free agency, a lot of things shaking out. And I will say this for those that don't know, last year did a March Madness bracket and giveaway. I think we ended up with 25-ish participants. We're going to open that thing up again this year. I'll have more details on how you can join. We'll do some kind of free prize or giveaway for the person that has the bracket that shows up and wins at the end. It was very fun last year, so hope you guys will join. But anyways, folks, we are here today to get you caught up on all things Panthers. It's been a few days since I've recorded content. I had to get you up to speed on everything that I've heard. We got to address a few things, and then we have a fan question that I will go through as well. And again, remember, folks, 910-679-6927. You can leave a message for the show. I'll pick it up and answer it. So without further ado, though, let's go ahead and get right in. We're not actually going to start with free agency rumors. We have a little bit of juicy gossip within the Carolinas. And no, we are not touching on the Steve Smith Sr. story. I'm leaving that to be whatever it is, not my business. I will tell you, for folks that are following that, you can go look it up yourselves. I'm not going to comment much further. I will tell you one thing I did notice is his bio has changed. His bio used to have references to family and all of his sponsors. All that is gone. And now it just says official page of Steve Smith Sr. So I'll leave it at that. But let's get into some more Panthers news. All right, folks. Actually, before I read this, I don't know how many people here that listen to this show follow David Newton of ESPN.com. Maybe there's a good portion that do. Maybe there's a good portion that don't. I got to tell you, folks, I try to stay out of bashing people only because of where I sit, and I understand the scrutiny that can come with this, but I will acknowledge there are numerous times where some of the questions that come from him are absurd. Absolutely ridiculous, and he's just kind of out of left field. He seems to be very misplaced. I talked to him at training camp last year, went over to the side during a time where he was getting bashed for being the worst beat writer and reporter that covers the Panthers, and I tried to say, hey, man, it's going to be okay, and he said he didn't care. That's all fine and dandy, but I will tell you, man, it's hard to defend him anymore. And I don't really know if I would say defend, but at least give him the benefit of the doubt. But we have some pretty juicy gossips. You have Austin Corbett, center, suffered an injury, missed some time. There was this little snippet of a story that came out about Austin Corbett's future, of course, on ESPN.com with David Newton writing it. And we get a response. So let's dive right in. So at the bottom, you can see it says, time for the Panthers to move on. Center Austin Corbett wants to play for a team where there isn't competition for the position. You have to remember, folks, he moved around. He made a decision to play center knowing, well, one, he wanted to get playing time. Like, that's the most important thing. When you're currently a guard, working through a rotation, you want to get on the field. So he moves to center. He did have competition. Of course, he won the job. It panned out and things worked out for him. But you get this response back now. This is wild. So this is Austin Corbett's account. He said, David Newton claims he needs to be in our locker room when we're getting out of practice / showers to know us on a personal level and share our stories. Yet after 3 years together, he doesn't know a thing about me. Talk about firing back. And I got to tell you, Austin Corbett is a very quiet guy when it comes to his social media interactions. I know last year when he had the ACL setback, he was in like a daily post every day leading up to him coming back. He's been a little bit quieter as of late, but either way, man, this says a lot. And the reference to the locker room thing, like, I don't know how many people follow along. And again, I'm not in the locker room, so I can't really say too much about it, but the scrums, media, reporters being in the locker room as these guys are getting out of the shower, asking them questions, all that. I can't remember which team came out earlier this year. It might have been the Browns or the Bengals, basically saying that they were not going to have reporters in the locker room. Like, you can meet and talk to us outside of it, And I agree with that. And I know some people got upset, those specifically that do that, and the scrums and the sound bites that you get out of it. Man, that is wild to see that response right there. I mean, not holding back at all, which I don't blame him either. We have some other news now. And I kind of twisted up the show lineup, so apologize if you're trying to follow alongside the right. We're actually going to skip down to Raheem Blackshear news. So Jeremy Fowler of ESPN has reported the Panthers are not tendering restricted free agent running back Raheem Blackshear, per source. Blackshear, who will hit free agency, was the Panthers, Carolina's primary kick and punt returner. So there you have it. Raheem Blackshear hitting the market. We also know they're in conversations with Miles Sanders and his agent about his contract. We know if Miles is going to be back here, he's going to have to take a pay cut. No doubt about that. Trying to figure out what that's going to look like is TBD. But I think this sets the Panthers up to explore free agency. And again, I'm not expecting a big-time splash player through free agency when you have Chuba Hubbard, but it also sets up the NFL draft. So always a possibility to draft. It's a really good running back class. I don't think they can go second round running back. But if you get into the third, fourth, fifth round, there's an opportunity to pick someone up. So furthers that along, it also opens up the door for your return game. Who's going to step in as a specialist to be the returner, assuming that things just don't pan out with Raheem Blackshear. Now, Blackshear is a really good back, too. I know we didn't see him so much in the running game, but as a returner and a specialist, I really appreciated him. At one point, he was in contention to make the Pro Bowl as a returner. So not bad at all. Now, as we get into free agency rumors, we have to talk about trades and the first official trade that's not official because the league window does not open until the 10th. So you have all that, or it's tampering, and then league year starts the 12th into the 13th. So it doesn't really become official until then. But the first trade of the season, and it is quite the blockbuster, had a lot of folks in Carolina, including myself, a little bit questioning, although I wasn't like that concerned. But here we go. Deebo Samuel, South Carolina Gamecock, traded to the Washington Commanders. So the first 2025 offseason NFL trade, San Fran has agreed to send standout wide receiver Deebo Samuel, reported by Adam Schefter right here, to the Washington Commanders in exchange for a fifth-round pick. Now, there's a lot to discuss with this trade. First of all, you have to look at the contract situation and understand Deebo Samuel, I think on Over the Cap or Spo track was around 15 million cap, but it actually was closer to 17 million ish. And I think the actual number came close to 20 in the 21 range as far as what the Commanders are going to be responsible for. It's the last year of his contract. He's been inconsistent, but all that to say, you got him for a fifth round or two. I mean, the wildest thing about this, you think about the Cowboys trading the Panthers for Jonathan Mingo and getting a fourth rounder, and you have Deebo Samuel going for a fifth. It all has to do with the money. That's part of the reason. Like, if you wonder why the Panthers weren't involved with this, it had to do with how much money and the burden the Commanders were willing to take on. When you have that cap space, and this is something maybe next year when the Panthers have 120-ish million, 100 to 120-ish million, maybe even more available, that could be an opportunity for the Panthers. But Panthers have to stay within budget. They understand the need and the focus is going to be on defense. So I don't know, like, where the market goes from here. A lot of people are wondering, like, who's next? We know that Garrett Wilson probably stay in. T. Higgins probably stay in. DK Metcalf probably not in contention. So every receiver that you had hoped or thought would be in play for the Carolina Panthers, probably not. You heard Dan Morgan talking about being comfortable with the group of wide receivers that are here now. I don't know, man. It's a lot to be desired personally, and I do think the Panthers still have to figure out someone and something. Otherwise, we're going to be bargain shopping once again, which tends to be the norm. Now, you may ask, well, Deebo's traded. Does that mean Brandon Ayuk is next? Ian Rappaport, of course, he was reporting on this, said after 49ers traded Deebo, could they possibly trade Ayuk? He said the big thing is that's going to be a challenge, primarily because of money. A lot of this is centered around this idea that, Brock Purdy is due for his payday, which is true. But I kind of think about this as a similar vein of the Panthers when they were preparing to draft Bryce Young and then trade away DJ Moore. Why would you, if you're the 49ers and you are the organization that you are, give up 2 playmakers for your quarterback? Like, you're just putting yourself in a bad situation just to be able to have the quarterback get the money that he wants. So anyways, folks, I know people may wonder, could you entice? I would take Brandon Ayuk. And personally, comparing the two, I know he's coming off an ACL tear, but I would take Brandon Ayuk over Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel's a fantastic wide receiver. He's also had kind of his ups and downs and missed some time, and his durability hasn't been quite the same. Now, we'll actually get into some free agency rumors. Again, kind of segmented this thing all over the place, which is okay. Let's look at what's being reported on ESPN. I think this was Dan Graziano. So expect the Panthers to be seeking big-name players in free agency. I think Carolina could be on the top safeties, Javon Holland, Cameron Bynum, etc. And it might be one of the teams willing to spend big to lure defensive tackle Milton Williams away from the Super Bowl champion Eagles. Yes, we need someone in the middle of this defensive line on the 3-4 scheme. Panthers will also look to add edge rush help, Chase Young being one of the intriguing options here. And yeah, that's one thing that people forget about. Chase Young had a decent year with the New Orleans Saints, like not fantastic, but decent. And I think if you have him here, he's still young, developing alongside again, put him into the rotation. I think it would be good. I also think you're just going to have a lot of people potentially seeking him as well. There's just not a lot of really good edge rushers available on no sweat, but I'm just saying where the class sits. Also think about Zach Bond. Like we talked about all the big names, man, we are here. Like free agency is right around the corner. As I've recorded this on Sunday, getting close to a week out. So it'll technically be, I guess, like 8 or 9 days away from now. Then the dust will settle and we can begin to embark on what the draft is really going to look like and the needs for the Carolina Panthers. It should be fun times. Limited amount of money, but I think there's ways that you can maneuver the cap and contracts of these guys to get a competitive team in place. And you have to remember, and I don't know if I've recorded an episode since this came out, Brant Tillis was talking on, I guess, to Anish Shroff. I was going to call it a podcast, but up there at the NFL Combine, talking about the roster construction, and his goal in what they did in Kansas City multiple times is to have a roster that you could put out there today before you go into the draft. So really what that means is your roster is so complete heading into the draft that you can draft anyone you want because every need is met. You feel comfortable with every position, and then you can go out and just add additions and playmakers in key areas that can really help this team improve. So I'm all for that. Really good stuff. Now we do have one fan question of the week. I didn't put it on here as a blur, but we will key this up in just a second. Let's get it pulled up here. Actually, don't know that I uploaded it. So as I record this right now, we're going to get the voicemail uploaded and we will play this. So I pull this up here, giving it a second to process, but it's our good old man, our friend Miles from Illinois. Let's play it.
Hey, buddy, it's me, Miles, again from Illinois, the diehard Carolina fan since 1995. But my question for you now is today, what do you believe that we should go after first in the draft pick? A lot of people are saying we should go after wide receiver. How do you feel about that? Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great day.
Awesome. Thanks, Miles.
Hey,
from
buddy,
Illinois.
it's me, Miles,
I gotta
again
figure
from
out
Illinois.
Thank you, Miles from Illinois. And as always, folks, man, please call into the show, 910-679-6927. I want you guys to be a part of this. I do appreciate the fan support. And I mean fan support, I mean Panthers fans and fans of anything else. But let's throw this back up there. So what do you believe we should go with the first pick in the draft? And, you know, kind of ties into what I was just saying. I think in about 14 days, maybe even less, we're going to have a really good idea of what this team is going to look like. I mean, really, the majority of free agency settles. We know there's going to be deals that linger, veterans that are sitting out there. But your big name splash signings are going to happen fast. It's going to move quickly. So within 2 weeks, we're going to have a really good idea of the construction of the roster. From that standpoint, we may hear some news of rumors of trades or potential trades for wide receivers. I know there is a lot of talk about wide receiver. As I mentioned, as I went through all those names earlier and we talk about the trade market, there's really not a lot available. We're going to do some post NFL Combine breakdown here coming up soon. But I've seen a lot of shifting in some of the projections of the number one wide receiver. A lot of people have Ted McMillan. That's changed a little bit. And I've seen a few names going up the board, potentially ahead. So for me, man, I think position-wise, you can't go wrong with defense as it is today, whether it's a linebacker or an edge or a safety. I'll throw safety in that mix. I think any of those three, and maybe even cornerback or nose tackle. I mean, honestly, the defensive side of the ball has so many needs, and you can't go wrong getting a young talent in place. I got to tell you, though, if the Panthers did decide to get wide receiver, I think I'd be a bigger fan of doing that if there was an opportunity to trade back. Honestly, the trade back for me, that scenario, and I got to tell you, Jalen Walker sounded really good, looked really good through the combine. Jahad Campbell out of Alabama. I like both of those linebackers. I know there's a lot of edge players in the mix as well. But you get somebody like that, I mean, it can change a lot of things. But I still think, fan of trading back. So I appreciate the question. And again, as always, folks, y'all can call into the show. Closing this out, as I mentioned, the league year. So the final designation for a franchise or transition tag is March 4th. Like we're here. I don't think that's going to happen. March 10th through the 12th is your free agency legal tampering. And then the new league year kicks off at 4 o'clock on March 12th. So again, things are going to be flying through the air, and this is Eastern time. So we'll get to hear news between the 10th through the 12th of what's happening. I'll do my best to keep you guys updated on everything that's going to come through from that. But I think that's going to do it for today's episode. Jam-packed. We'll be back with more content. As always, this is Carolina Dad. Y'all have a good one.